Hey everybody, welcome back. I am PDX Guitar Freak, and in this video I'm going to show you how to play the guitar solo from Van Halen's classic On Fire. Now, as we typically do with Van Halen songs, you want to make sure your guitar is tuned down 1/2 step. So E becomes E flat, A becomes A flat, D becomes D flat, etc. You know the drill. And then oftentimes at the beginning of these lessons I talk a little bit about music theory, how the notes correlate with one another within the context of the song, scales and things like that. But when it comes to Van Halen, man, all that stuff goes right out the window, right? Oftentimes he will lump or put notes together in such a way that doesn't really fit within your typical conventional scale or mode. It's just whatever he feels sounds good, which fortunately sounds good to all of his millions of fans. So my point here is, while playing or learning the solo, just put aside all that music theory thought, turn off that side of your brain, and just enjoy this solo for what it is. All right, let's jump on into it. Section 1 goes like this. Slowly. And that has been highly debated. I've seen 3 different versions of that section 1 played out there. The most common way is the way I'm doing it, which is actually the way that I originally learned it from this Van Halen tab book that I got about 30 years ago. It's one of the earlier Van Halen tab books. This one was tabbed out or notated by a guy named Wolf Marshall, who's a very well-known instructional guy. Did a lot of stuff in the 80s and that time period. Now I guess he's a professor at UCLA and he still does instructional stuff. But he was one of the go-to tab guys back then. And now, that said, we know tabs aren't always right. In fact, I'm going to reference later this tab book again where their mistake was made. But this is the way most people play it. Now, it's really the last 3 notes that are of question. Okay, so we start off with, and then the last 3 notes, which can also be played, same notes, just different positioning. Those last 3 notes have been highly critiqued. Other people go 4th fret, G, 6, 7 on the D, like, okay, so, or they'll go 4th fret G, 6, 8 on D, like, okay. Those are the other 2 ways of doing it. Try it for yourself and you figure out which one you think sounds best. All right, let's move to the next part. The next section. Slowly. All right, that one should be pretty self-explanatory. Just always pay attention to where it says it's palm muted, etc., and hammer-ons and pull-offs. All right, let's move to the next part. Okay, slowly. And again, if you haven't noticed with these patterns that I'm playing, they're not conventional scale patterns, right? They're just whatever Eddie thinks sounds good. All right, let's move to the next part. You'll notice I add in that little 11 to 15 slide on the E string at the end. You don't have to play that. I'm just trying to capture as accurately as I possible every little nuance in Eddie's playing. But again, slowly. All right, let's move to the next part. Next part. Slowly. That last note, that 13th fret of the D, again, I know it sounds kind of funny when you play it by itself without the backing track, but that's what he does. Again, another great example of Eddie just doing whatever he feels like. All right, let's move to the next part. Slowly. All right. It's a pretty easy part. Very similar phrasing to a lot of the other sections. Let's move to the final part. The last part. Slowly. Now that last part, I see a lot of people play it on the G string instead, which is wrong. And I think the reason that is, remember that tab book I showed you, that original early authorized edition is what they call it. That's how they do it, and it was a mistake. I mean, you can clearly hear that when you play both versions. That was a mistake in the original. I think when they went back to do the proofreading or editing, they missed it. So you'll see a lot of tabs that'll show it like that instead of. It's funny how that works. These older tabs, they become gospel and they get recirculated in different tab formats, different websites, and it keeps going down from person to person. So you'll see some people still play it that way, but it's obviously wrong. All right, that was my lesson on how to play the guitar solo from Van Halen's On Fire. I hope you found it informative and helpful. Don't forget to leave a comment, thumbs up, subscribe. All that stuff means something. And as usual, I will answer all the questions as time allows. Until next time, rock on.